Hello, English 2 students. Glad to be with you for a few minutes in semester 2, and hope you're enjoying the first chapter of the novella of Mice and Men. Steinbeck is truly one of my favorite authors, and I think he's a tremendous American author, and an entirely unique voice. Obviously, your instructor is going to walk with you through some of the most important parts of chapter 1. On the screen is a PDF copy of Mice and Men. There's some reasonable debate about whether or not a book like this should be explored in high school, and that has to do not with the difficulty of the language in this short novel, but rather the complexity of the topics that it presents to the reader. And there's this question: exactly how old do you have to be to think about some of the problems that show up in these texts? Well, obviously, your instructor is going to walk you through much of this. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. One, take another minute or two to look at the first couple of paragraphs presented in this chapter. Yes, it's true that this novel was written before before the information age, of course, and before media as we now know it. And so maybe there was more time and interest spent in describing a setting like what you see here, but that's really not entirely what Steinbeck was trying to do with this, as he lays out this beautiful and kind of lyrical picture of this natural environment, of this nature setting. It's meant to draw a sharp contrast between this and what we see only a handful of pages later, where we begin to get interactions between George and Lenny. And these interactions are made more stark because they're pitted against or contextualized within these otherwise beautiful depictions of the natural world. Well, your instructor's already talked about the pathetic fallacy at this point and the ways in which Steinbeck riffs on that convention. But I want to maybe encourage you to read those first few paragraphs again, and then in small groups as a class, take a moment to look at the dialogue between George and Lenny and ask a few questions about the ways in which personal and communal suffering cause us to experience our world in different ways. So to be more concrete about that, you can imagine, having a day at school where things really go your way, and you open the double doors to go home at the end of the day. And if the weather is beautiful and things are wonderful, it just kind of caps off an otherwise really lovely day. On the other hand, you can probably also imagine times when, because there are other stressors going on in your life, the world around you is actually a reminder of the suffering or frustrations that you're experiencing. And in some ways, Steinbeck is playing with these ideas by giving us a picture of human beings in this otherwise beautiful context. So it's worth thinking about the ways in which these migrant workers, which you've already explored to some degree, how might they have experienced this natural world? How might you experience the world around you if your circumstances were different than they in fact are? And to what degree are people, differently ruthless than nature? To what degree are they differently compassionate? If you could even consider nature to be compassionate. So it's worth exploring the role of migrant workers and the ways in which they speak to each other and treat each other, and what that might tell us about their life. So maybe some questions around that would be useful. Some exploration of that would be useful. Also, and particularly, there are a lot of misunderstandings concerning the relationship between George and Lenny. So speak candidly about how Steinbeck depicts Lenny, and what your initial impressions of their relationship are after chapter 1 of the text. I hope you enjoy Of Mice and Men.